Okay, thank you everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining our session today. My name is Adetoun, and I manage some of the initiatives and the programs that H.O.P.S
She's
does.
our boss. Like, she calls the shots.
Taiwo, that's not true. I know what you're trying to do there.
You saw that she kind of paused to try to pick her words. Like, my name is Adetoun and I manage H.O.P.S. That would be accurate.
I don't manage H.O.P.S, Taiwo, but I see what you're trying to do and it's not working.
No.
So if you don't know what H.O.P.S is, most of you might know by now, is helping other people succeed. And Taiwo is going to tell us a little bit more about H.O.P.S shortly. So tonight we have three people that, three panelists, and yeah, actually we have a bonus panelist as well. So we have Marsha, we have Shiva and Cabrillo, who have passed their PMP exams recently. And we have Samriti, the one-woman army for CBAP. This group of guys are going to be answering all our questions with regards to this examination. But before we do that, I'd like to introduce Taiwo to us, who we fondly know as Professor Taiwo. Taiwo and Bola co-founded H.O.P.S. So Taiwo is one of the co-founders of H.O.P.S. Taiwo is an award-winning project manager. He's been awarded by PMI severally. He was recently recognized by PMI as one of PMI's Future 50, which is not an easy feat. He likes to be humble about that, but I like to brag about him. So please welcome Taiwo as he tells us a little bit more about H.O.P.S.
Thank
We
you.
can clap.
Thank you, Adetoun. She does a good job at embarrassing everyone around her. Thank you. H.O.P.S is a brainchild of two immigrants who came to Canada and found some kind of luck in their own path. We came about the same time, and unlike most of the stories that we heard before landing here, things turned out to be quite smooth for us. That within a space of, I think, 2 or 3 weeks, Bola got a job, a very good job. Same thing for myself, and then we started to compare things that happened to us and things that we've heard before. And then we thought that, we could help some people who are still trying to navigate the path that we have just come through. And so the whole idea was just to help people in their career transition, and for those who are just starting their career to be able to make the best decisions or most productive use of their time. But then people like Adetoun came on board. We onboarded several other mentors as well, and that expanded the things that we're able to do. So we've gone from just the one-on-one mentoring and interacting with people as they signal interest in being mentored, to now being able to organize events like this one. Adetoun, what do you call this event again? Fireside Chat, right?
Fireside Chat, yes.
Okay. We have Accelerate program. We numbered those events by the number of times we've done them. So I think the next one is going to be Accelerate 4.0, right?
Yeah.
We also do one-on-one coaching still. Anyone interested, there's a link on the website where you can request for a mentor, and if you go there, we usually will look into our network to find a matching mentor for you. We also have quite a number of volunteer opportunities with us. Bola runs a training outfit, and I have noticed that most people who have things to do with us usually benefit in some kind of discount or some kind of leverage from that outfit. So you usually see a lot of our protege or people who have had things to do with us come out from that outfit also. Yeah, it's now bigger than what two people can claim. It's now like a family. Today, it's now Marsha, Shiva, Samriti, Cabrillo that are doing the job that about a year ago we would have had to do by ourselves. And trust me, no one can claim to be island of knowledge. So every opportunity like this has also helped us to expand our own view of what's going on out there, because it was just experiences of 2 people. Now it's experiences of a lot of people. So it's growing. We're enjoying the evolution we're seeing. So you're welcome to be a part of the family as much as you can. It's everything we do is voluntary. Everything we do is at no cost to anyone, and it's always going to be like that. So it's always going to be a giving back opportunity for anyone participating with us. And for anyone who is credentialed, who is participating in any of our events, if you want to claim PDU, just let me know. I can always walk you through how to do that. So there's also that advantage. And if you want to put it on your resume, if you need references or any of those things, you can always reach out. But just make sure that we know 1 or 2 things about you before you ask for references, right? So absolutely, that's H.O.P.S. Adetoun, you want to add more?
No, I think you've pretty much covered everything. Yeah, you pretty much covered everything. Thank you. The only thing I would probably add is Gopro. Once in a while, Gopro is also one of our initiatives where we provide, Taiwo touched on that, but I'm just giving it the name, where we provide subsidized training for people that are preparing for either the PMP or the CAPM or the CBAP examination. So I think that.
So when she said subsidized, means paid training, like it's completely free.
Free
but of
for
course,
you.
Yeah.
At no cost to the participants.
Right.
Yes. So we usually have all of these initiatives put up on our LinkedIn page and on our website, so you can just keep following us so that you can know about what it is we're doing. We also have a community on LinkedIn, but I'm going to talk about that a little bit more after the session. So without any further small talk from my end, I know I stopped saying without much ado. So without any further small talk from my end, I'm going to ask the panelists to introduce themselves briefly. And they are going to be telling us their names, when they wrote their exam, and they will just share a little bit about their experiences writing the certification, and then we can go on and take the questions. And I think for the questions, we'll probably take CBAP questions first, and we take PMP after. And you're free to ask the questions by unmuting yourselves and asking, or you can just put it in the chat box. I'll be monitoring that, and the panelists will be monitoring that as well. And we would try to cover as much ground as possible. So I'm going to ask Marsha to introduce herself first, because you're first on my screen. So
sure, no problem.
Go for it.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Marsha Thomas. Thank you so much for this opportunity to present today and to help as many as I can. I sat the exam in June this year. And in terms of my experience with it, of course, it's a challenging exam, but it's not insurmountable. I mean, we're proof of that it can be done, it can be passed. It's not an exam that I think anyone should take lightly. It requires preparation. It requires stamina and endurance. And I suppose throughout this panel, you'll get a little bit from us in terms of how we actually prepared, what we did the day before, the morning, what I did certainly. I'll be willing to share that, if anybody wants to know that. So I look forward to answering your questions, and I hope tonight is beneficial to everybody who's here. Thank you.
Thank you, Marsha.
Thank you, Marsha.
Yeah. So next on my screen is Shiva. Shiva, go for it.
Yeah, thank you so much. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I am a project management professional with 9 years of experience, and I came to Canada in March, and then I thought of utilizing my time in pandemic, and then I earned my PMP certification. I was lucky enough that I had a few of my friends who guided me through this journey. And I know if you had someone who can guide you in a correct manner, you can save a lot of time and you can make most out of it. So thank you to Taiwo and all your team for organizing this. And I think you should take most out of this session today, and feel free to ask as many as question you want to. We are here, and even after this, I'll share my email ID and you can connect me anytime.
Thank you, Shiva. Definitely
Shiva.
agree. That was a good way to take advantage of the period the pandemic provided.
Yeah.
Next on my screen is going to flip the script a bit. That's Samriti. Samriti took the CBAP exam. So Samriti, tell us a little bit more.
Hello, everyone. So first of all, welcome to the webinar. My name is Samriti Sharma. I am a business analyst professional with more than 5 years of experience in various process improvement initiatives. So my journey, it was like a roller coaster ride. There were a lot of ups and downs, but I would just say in a simple word, in the end, everything was fruitful. So, and I would really like to thank, first of all, H.O.P.S, helping other people succeed, for giving me this platform and this opportunity to share my insights with all of you. And of course, my mentor, Bola. I really want to mention him because he has helped me out throughout my journey. I think if he would not be there, I would not be here today talking to all of you. So that's all. And I'm looking forward to all of your questions. And I'll try my best to answer those questions.
Wow. Thank you, Samriti. We'll make sure Bola gets this shout out, this special shout out that you give to him. And fortunately for us, we have someone that came off the PMP boards freshly. He literally wrote the PMP exam yesterday. Am I right, Cabrillo?
Tuesday.
On Tuesday. Well, this week. So it's like fresh. And he can also, is like bonus panelist for us tonight. Hi, Cabrillo. Could you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Good evening, everyone. Cabrillo is my name. I work as a master data specialist with Canopy. We produce cannabis.
Yeah, it shows.
My hair, anyway. I don't smoke. I work on about 4 ERPs. I work on SAP S/4HANA, and Oracle NetSuite, Sage S3, and SAP Concur. My journey into PMP won't be complete without mentioning Taiwo. It all started with a chat with Taiwo. So for all of us who are taking PMP or CBAP, you need a mentor. Get as much as you can. One might not be enough if I count. I think I have like 10. So get as much mentor as you can. You can't pass that exam without having a mentor. Let me be sincere with you. And you can't pass that exam without having digest the whole of that pinball guide. You need a summarized version of it. I didn't read it, so don't let me deceive you. It's a 976 pages. I didn't read any of it. I only used it as a reference point. I used Pinbook. I used Rita book also. So they were more, what I read were more like a decomposed version of it. So look for someone who has decomposed it, read through it. You can't get away with ethos. Ethos is very important, but don't cram. You need a fair understanding of ethos.
Yeah.
There's no way you will dodge it. And you need a very good understanding of your 49 processes. You can't dodge it. You need a fair and very good understanding of project documents. Very good understanding. Print it out, read it inside out. You know those 49 processes, you need somebody to walk you through. I failed the exam first. I wrote the exam twice. My first attempt was in May. I took the second one 3 days ago. When I reviewed the first performance, I had a knowledge gap in planning. I had a knowledge gap in execution. My planning was, I think, below targets. My execution was need improvement. I had to reach out. I didn't tell anyone. I only told the mentors who I was close to, and they were able to walk me through it. You need somebody to walk you through those 49 processes. Pinbook is very dry. It's very, very dry. I did my PSM last year. It's a 15 page. I went to it inside out. I went to it inside out, and that was enough for me. I didn't need anybody to walk me through PSM guide. but PMBOK is very dry. So you need somebody to walk you through. You can't pass that exam without you understanding having a good understanding of it. You don't need to read the PMBOK, but you need somebody who has decomposed it, somebody who understands it. Because those questions come from those books. They expect that you understand. It's not the project management you've done outside. It's the project management according to that PMBOK. You get a question, and what they expect from you is, they expect you to place yourself inside any of those process groups. The question is coming from executing. So something that you should know that you are in executing. Don't think when you are in monitoring and control. Don't think you are in closing. Take your answers within that executing process. It becomes easier when you have somebody who could tell you, guy, this is where you are. Think about processes around it. You get me? So you need a mentor. Get as much as you can. Somebody who is certified. Disturb them. Taiwo doesn't have time. You need to get hold of him. I disturb him a lot. Same thing with Bola. So get those who are certified. Let them walk you through. There are lots of, I hope I'm not taking too much time. I'm a storyteller.
All of that voice.
Well, it's very valid information you're providing. So we can just wrap it up in 1 more minute so that we can now take the questions. Because with this intro, I know like the PMP people are like getting to ask questions. So
keep your questions. I'll answer all of.
So yeah, except that I take it personal that you spoke about the PMBOK like that.
Yeah, I guess Taiwo.
Now it has 76 pages. It's 1,000 pages.
Mm-hmm.
How do you open those books? Having to cook with family and work?
Kabir is keeping it real here. But some people read the PMBOK. I think I actually read the PMBOK once. I know it was boring, but yeah, I tried to read it. So thank you very much, Kabir. You see what I said when I meant when I said Kabir just came fresh off the boat. You can see like it's so like still into it and in that zone. And it's even great to have someone who has actually like tried and failed at it to like share their experience, so we can learn those lessons they learned, and we can make better use of our own studying experiences. So the plan was to have CBAP questions first. Does anyone have any questions for Samriti? I sort of feel like PMP people want to ask a lot of questions right now, but can we just take CBAP questions first? Anybody?
Can I go first?
Yes,
what does CBAP even mean?
Hi,
I'm just kidding.
I completed taking my CBAP classes, and now I'm just going through the BABOK, right? There is so much knowledge there. Even though I've been a seasoned business analyst for several years now, some of those are like, okay, I don't do it exactly this way. So because most companies implement, how do I say, Scrum or even Waterfall in their own methodology, right? So we don't necessarily follow the book to the T, right? And some of the processes mentioned are not how I do requirements gathering. So the way I do is the way I work with my users, with my stakeholders, right? That interpersonal way of doing it, which is not by the book. So sometimes I'm in this conflict of, okay, do I go by the book? Because it's so hard to memorize. That book has got so many pages. Just like Kabir said, I have 2 kids, I have a full-time job. How am I going to be able to crack this exam? Because I'm worried if it's a memorization or is it kind of taking what you know with what you've experienced and kind of go over questions that have appeared at the exam. I'm just in that conflict of how to best prepare to crack that exam.
Well, it's a very good question, Kaushik. So if I talk about BABOK, so BABOK was the first thing that I wanted to talk about, because BABOK is like it's like the Wikipedia of business analysis, and the whole exam would be based upon BABOK only. I understand that your real life experiences would be different, right? But you have to read BABOK. There is no other option because the whole exam would be on the basis of BABOK. And the right way of reading BABOK is not to cram everything, but you can start with reading the knowledge areas first, and then you can go ahead and start with the techniques, and don't like try to interrelate things, try to mind map things. And I would say fix a target date and set your goals, and I think then you would be able to plan and schedule your time wisely. That is the first thing I would like to say based on my experiences. But like you cannot run away from Babok. That would be that would be sure. Also, one more thing I want to add is like Kabir, yeah, he was also mentioning that if you can join some study group, or if you can get a mentor who can help you out, who can walk you through the Babok guide, and who can explain you all the tasks and techniques used in each and every task. Because I remember I came across few questions which were related to the techniques and related to the task. So I think you have to go through Babok. I mean, you cannot skip that book. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Are you convinced, Kaushik?
Yes, but yes and no, it's a conflict, right? I mean, I understand the need for Babak, but just when I look at some of those questions, they are like, they're not really application related questions. I understand that questions are more application of a product or application of knowledge, but some of those questions are more textbook nature, right? So which technique is used in which process, in which task, right? So some of them, I understand your explanation of mind mapping, but some of them really seem like a test of memory as opposed to a test of application of the knowledge.
Actually, the thing is, people who are working on certain projects, right, they have those kind of experiences only. But business analysis body of knowledge is talking about the whole business analysis, because some people work in strategy analysis, they are a part of strategy, and some people work only in solution evaluation area, right? So you need to you need to interrelate things, like interrelate all the knowledge areas and tasks and everything. I think it's not very hard. It is not very difficult to read that book if you go through it like one by one. If you give it a time, and if you would be consistent with your approach, I think you would be able to do that. Yeah, this is all I wanted to say.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you, Samriti. So we have a few questions in the chat. Alicia is asking if you have any advice on filling out the application. She said, do you have to complete the class first before you pay for the exam and complete the application form?
Is this for CBAP?
Yes, for CBAP.
No. So I read through Babok once, and then I filled the application. And actually, Stacy and Lloyd helped me in filling the application. They have this Excel sheet on the basis of which I filled up my application. And you need to follow certain criteria, like you need to put work history and personal references and PD hours and everything. So you can fill out the application, and then maybe after a span of, because after filling the application they will give you 1 year time during which you can take your exam, and they will give you 3 chances to clear your exam. So yeah, you can submit the application first, and then you can take classes, and from there onwards you can decide, because you have a time span of 1 year. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Samriti. So we have questions that are related to that. Someone said, where can I find the Babok? I think, and I think I can answer that. Like, once you register with IIBA, you have access to a free copy of the Babok to download. Someone said, do we have a CBAP study group to join? Maybe that's not, somebody might have some to recommend, but yeah, we don't have.
I can only recommend like you can join some bootcamp trainings, because I joined a 4-week bootcamp training with Stacy and Lloyd, and it helped me immensely. So you can join study group like that, yeah, like bootcamp training, or maybe you can go through some forums, or you can join there's one website called Reddit. People actually share their experiences over there. So
Okay.
It might be helpful to you. Yeah.
Okay. Not advertising, but Stacy and Lloyd is a partner organization with H.O.P.S, and they have like trainings for PMP preparation, CBAP preparation, and I think Samriti went through that training. So someone said, and two questions that are related. Someone said, is the BABOK enough, or is there any other book you can recommend? And another person is asking if you used watermark learning or BABOK or both for preparing.
As per my experience, I would suggest BABOK is like the whole book. You can read it end to end and you will be good to take your exam. Still, if you would like to go through any other books, so there is also one more book called, it's from Watermark Learning. It's the Watermark Learning Study Guide. You can refer that as well. But as per my experience, I would suggest BABOK is enough. Then, sorry, what was the second question, Adetoun?
So it was like, did you use any other book? And it was like 2-in-1 questions, different questions but related. So someone is asking, Bayosho is asking, did you have practice questions to study with?
Yes, definitely, because reading BABOK would not be enough. So I practiced questions from Watermark Learning. They give you subscription for like a month or 2 months. They charge you $99 or $129 for 60 days. So definitely, I practiced almost 1,500 to 2,000 questions from Watermark. Yeah.
1,500
to
I'm sorry.
2000. Yeah, I practiced a lot of questions. I went through a lot of YouTube videos to understand techniques, and then I got a mentor as well who helped me in explaining all the techniques. Yeah.
Wow.
So practicing questions is like must. Yeah.
Okay. 1,500 to 2,000 questions, people. Any more questions on CBAP? Any more questions? You can actually like
one more
unmute.
question, if you don't mind.
Okay.
All the sample questions you took and the and all the prep work you did at the exam itself, were the questions more relevant or repetitive, or clearly they helped you, but is there anything that glaringly stood out, like, okay, this is not the right way to prepare, or something, like anything different between how you prepared and when you saw the exam, like anything you want to talk about that?
So the questions would not be like totally similar as per like Watermark Learning or something else. The questions obviously would be different, but the kind of, or the pattern of the questions would be same. Like there would be first 45 questions would be case study based questions, and the rest of the questions would be scenario based questions. So you actually attempt similar kind of questions, not the same questions, but similar type of questions through Watermark Learning, and you kind of develop that sense actually of answering those questions. So that's why I'm saying, because if you are reading BABOK, you have read it like twice or thrice or so many times, and if you're directly going in exam and facing questions, I think it's better if you practice questions before that. But questions would not be similar for sure. The questions would be different, but like I said, case studies, and there would be scenarios, there would be calculation based questions like estimations or gross margin, or maybe you have to calculate return on investment, like simple calculation based questions would be there.
Okay. Samriti, okay. Does that answer your question, Kaushik?
Yes, if it's not too much to ask, can I ask one quick last question? I promise.
No problem.
Okay.
Is time management an issue, Samriti, in the exam, or do you think we have enough time on the exam?
I don't think so. We have enough time on exam, because you have to complete 120 questions in 210 minutes, which is like 3.5 hours. So time is a very crucial thing, because the first 45 questions would be very time consuming, because those would be case studies. And case studies, like what I mean by case studies is like 1 or 1.5 page long paragraph. And on the basis of that paragraph, you have to answer 3 to 4 questions. So definitely time management is a very crucial thing, and you can actually get an idea about that. You can practice simulation from Watermark Learning or any other resources that you're getting. Just practice few simulations, like 5 to 6 simulations. Try to get, if you're getting the score of 80% consistently, I think then you can go ahead and take your exam. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Samriti. Samriti is a professor. So this one, she's saying time management is not an issue. I don't know. A lot of people might disagree with that. So Chisom seems to have a question.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Samriti. So I'm not sure if this is beyond the scope of this webinar, but I wanted to ask about the career path itself for the CBAP. So Samriti, I was wondering if you could just share how relevant the exam has been to your career, and also how you feel because I mean, it's maybe not as very widely known as the project management thing. I just recently found out about the business analyst thing, and I find it interesting. So I don't know if this is the right place, but I'd like to know a little bit more about it.
Well, I think this is a very, very good question, because I am a kind of a newcomer to this country, and I do have business analysis experience, but I did not do, like, I was not certified before. But I think getting a certification, it really makes a difference. And if, for example, if there are BAs who wants to go up to lead business analyst, these kind of positions, so after having these certifications, it actually builds your credibility. So it tells people that you have knowledge, you have gone through the whole process, and you understand the scenarios in business analysis in the real world, right? So having a certification, it really makes a difference in your career, I would say that. Yeah. I hope I answered your questions.
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, one more question for CBAP. Bayasho is saying, what was the most challenging part of preparation and the proper exam for you?
For me, I think the most challenging part was actually time management. I have to be consistent, like I had to be consistent with my studies each and every day. That was the most challenging part, I would say. And I think apart from that, yeah, time management was my biggest concern. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask you one more question, and then we'll draw a curtain on the CBAP questions for now. So compared, you did 1,500 to 2,000 questions, like practice questions. If you compared the practice questions and the real life examination, would you say the exam questions were easier or more complex?
I think it was not very easy. It was not easier. It was a tough exam. But I would only say that if your preparation is rock solid, you would be able to clear your exam in the very first go. So why I practiced so many questions? Because I wanted to get an idea. Like, I was also practicing simulations. I almost practiced 6 to 7 simulations. So each simulation consists of 120 questions. So it kind of develops your sense to answer those questions. And yeah, that's why I practiced.
Okay. Thank you very much, Samriti. You can take a little break now, and then we'll come back to you later if we get more CBAP questions.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have PMP people ready to take your questions, people. So you can ask in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself and ask your questions.
So before the questions start rolling, I'm sure the recent PMPs will have a lot of answers for you, but I just wanted to moderate something that was said earlier on about the pinboard guide. It's not in defense of the pinboard guide. It's just like giving you what I think the pinboard is all about and the purpose it serves in your preparation for the exam. You definitely can pass the PMP exam without a pinboard guide. The danger that is there is that you'll be fortunate that the other materials you have read, they have represented what the exam is going to look like for you as best as they should. It's a long time ago I had mine, but what I did was to read the PMBOK, then went to Rita. And while I was reading Rita, there were some things I wouldn't spend too much of my time on because I made PMBOK my reference guide. So when I saw things that maybe Rita was trying to break something down to ABC, and I just felt I understood that concept from PMBOK, I just moved on. And there were things that Rita like went overboard explaining that I didn't see in the PMBOK guide. I ignored those. So that kind of saved some of my time. I would not advise that you go ahead to write the PMP exam without grinding through the PMBOK. Before now, the way the PMBOK has been put together is people like you and I just coming together to ask questions about, so what are the changes in the industry? Let's update the PMBOK. And so the putting together of the PMBOK is not professional. So that's why you find what Cabrillo said is what you hear from like 80% consumers of the PMBOK guide. Like, it's dry, it's not good to read. Like, you will find Rita where everything is like illustration, and she kind of leads you on and you want to know the next thing and stuff like that. But the new edition of PMBOK is not going to be like that. It's now going to be managed by a professional publisher. And then they've also broken away the ITTOs and all the stuff you find in the 6th edition now away. So it's a separate document. And so the PMBOK itself is back to about a 200-page document.
Wow.
Yeah. So if you're preparing for the exam, you know what you should be looking at is the bulky ITTO, the technical document, and not the standard itself. The standard itself is just a compilation of what's going on in the industry. Having said that, there is a particular document that I don't see anybody talk about, and I don't know whether its times have changed or maybe there have been too many changes in recent time, but it's one of the most important documents I found when I was preparing for my own exam or from my interaction with PMBOK development. We literally go to this document to look at what as the industry, what does the industry require from PMPs today? And so based on what the industry requires from PMPs, the PMP exam is made to test those things. And so this is a document that actually informs what questions you see in the PMP exam. The PMBOK is not. The PMBOK looks at that document to make sure that, to a large extent, the PMBOK also covers some of those things. But it is let me just post a link here. If you're a PMI member, you can download it for free. They call it the Competency Development Framework for project managers. The latest edition is the 3rd edition, 2017. If you look at that document, it tells you what the PMI thinks that the industry requires from PMPs today. And so the latest version of the exam you're writing up till December is based on what's in this document. And it's a very small document. So it's a small document you can consume to kind of anchor all of your preparation and all of your practices, and to just not necessarily consume just everything that's out there. It's not a very popular document. I don't know why. Maybe because the training industry makes a lot of money from consume all the materials, but it's a small document, but it will guide you and streamline how much effort you need to put into preparing for your exam. Let me know your feedback if you look at it and you think it reflects what you saw in the PMP exam for those who just came out of it, and maybe that can help those that are still preparing for it. Sorry for taking some of your time, just laying premise for conversation.
Thank you, Taiwo. Very valid contribution there. So there's one question in the chat box. I'll take that, and then I see Oluwatoba Samuel raised his hand. So PMP, someone said, Onyi said, how much time can one realistically use to prepare for the PMP to pass at the first sitting?
Mm-hmm.
Who wants to take that?
Okay, I am ready to, yeah. Okay, so I have faced this question many times, and frankly speaking, it's very general question because it depends on person to person. However, I did some of the studies to see, and I would say if you are devoting around 2 to 3 hours a day consistently for like 2 months, I would say you are good to go. The only main catch here is consistency. If you are breaking in between, I'm telling you, as many of us have said, that PMBOK is like 600 to 700 pages, and if you are reading and then you are giving a break of 1 week, and then you again start reading it, so it can drag your preparation for like 4 months, 5 months. So you have to be consistent. Try to give 2 to 3 hours a day consistently for 2 months. And another catch here is that most of us, we do training for 35 PDUs, but I have seen people doing a training which is not in line with the PMBOK. So I was lucky enough, I got one online training for 35 PDUs. I'll share a link, and it's very cheap. So in that, it was in line with the PMBOK, and it will give you whole idea about 49 processes. So it will give you a summary so that when you jump onto the PMBOK, you will have idea. Now you are not new to the PMBOK. You will have idea about the processes, and then you can go into the deep. So this is the second point you should consider, that whatever training you are taking for 35 PDUs, it should be in line with your PMBOK. Then I think it's good. You are good to go like 2 to 3 hours a day and practice some question banks also. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Marsha, do you want to add any?
Yeah, let me add something to that. I think 2 to 3 hours a day for 2 months it's achievable, but I also think it depends, as he said, on your learning style, the speed at which you grasp, how much help and support you have, how much focus you're able to get into those 2 and 3 hours. So I would say anywhere from 2 months to 6 months, up to 6 months, I think would be a realistic framework. Also, you also want to be assessing yourself during that time. You want to be taking some questions maybe at the end of a month or so to see what kind of score you're getting, and that should be able to tell you, do I need more time to prepare? But try to be getting, above 80 on some of those, and good practice questions. Consistently hitting 80 on good questions. And we'll talk about some of those a little bit later that I think are good questions. Yeah. So 2 to 6 is good for me.
Okay, so like you said, I think it might be subjective because it would depend on your learning styles and the time availability that you have. Yeah. So thank you, Shiva and Marsha. Hi, Bola.
Hi, Bola.
I don't know if you're
like an alien. Did you hear us?
He's frozen. I'm guessing Bola froze his screen. Okay, so we'll come back to Bola later. Oluwatoba Samuel, we can take your question now.
Good. Good evening. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Yeah. So 2 questions. I wanted to know if I read PMBOK alone. Now that Abraham has added the competency framework, or the one he just added, if I could read those 2 alone, will it be enough? I say this because I kind of have a deadline at work. It's actually a KPI for me, sort of, to complete to finish PMI by November. So I might not have the time to read supporting materials like Rita and all. So if I read PMBOK and the new material Abraham added, the questions for the exams, will it be sufficient to pass the exams? Is that practical? Thank you.
Thank you, Oluwatoba. Taiwo, you have to clarify the competency development framework that was added, and then we'll ask the panelists to answer that question.
Yeah, and I thought about that when I was going to suggest that document. Like, I hope I'm not adding to already so much that people have to read. In your kind of scenario where you're trying to streamline your effort, I think you'll be better off looking at the competency framework and a RITA than doing PMBOK guide and a RITA. The question of if you're fine with just PMBOK and competency framework, no, these documents are too they are too narrow to get you prepared for the exam. The exam, this other exam prep document, that is their purpose. They are prepared to prepare you for exams. So from everything you're going to read to how they prepare you to think and reason along some of the things you're going to be reading, all those become very material for you when you start to prepare for the exam. So you can't get through by just reading PMBOK and competency framework. It would be better you read one of the two and use an exam prep. But if you can do the three, the better.
Okay. Thank you, Taiwo. So, Marsha, I'm just going to ask Marsha, Kabir, and Shiva, what materials did you use in preparing for your exam? Apart from taking the 35 PDU's education, what materials did you use? Marsha, what materials did you use?
Okay, so I like Samriti, I found literally hundreds of questions online. So there are a lot of free ones there. Oliver F. Lehman has 100 or so, I think, free really good questions, I think. Exam Simulator, Prepcast, I think it is. That one is
fantastic.
My advice to the person who just asked in, if you want to really accelerate, I would say not delay heading into those practice questions. So just sort of work them together if you can to test the concepts right away. But those two would be a good place to start with the exam prep. And online, there are lots of others.
So, Marsha, what did you study? Did you study the PMBOK alone, or
I did everything. I went through the. I had overload a little bit. I went through the PMBOK one time, did notes, went back again just to get the notes I didn't get. Then I went through RITA. I went through everything, and then I did a bunch of questions. So mine took long because I didn't want to just SWOT. I really wanted to understand the processes. So I went sort of extreme.
And that's a good point she made there, that she wanted to understand the practice. What I found from it's a long time ago, but from my preparation was, and why I respect when anyone comes and says, I passed the PMP exam, is you rarely can make it through the 200 question if you haven't become familiar with the concept or with the processes to an extent that you can reason on the fly through the question and pick the correct answer consistently to pass the exam. So the idea that I just want to read to pass the exam rarely gets you through the PMP exam. It's not that kind of exam. It's an exam that you need to become a PMP to actually pass the exam. And so if you're lacking in experience before going to prepare for the exam, it adds to how much work you have to do in the course of preparing for the exam. You will have to do a lot of translation of the concept in your head and applying it to whatever scenarios that exist in your head for you to be familiar enough to retain the knowledge to get through the exam.
Thank you, Taiwo. Shiva, do you want to tell us what you read? What did you read?
Okay, so in my case, it was a bit different. As everybody says that PMBOK is something, it's really, it's not very elaborative. You have to read some other book. In my case, on the first day itself, when I read PMBOK, I got to understand that if you start reading from the PMBOK, it's not easy. So first thing I would suggest, I'll also share the link of that training. Do any of the training which is in line with the PMBOK. You will have summary about all the processes. Don't just jump to the PMBOK. And now the second thing, what I did in my case, it also worked. I read PMBOK. Frankly speaking, I think you will hardly find anyone who will say only read PMBOK, but I was the one. I read PMBOK for like 2 to 3 times, and then I read the Rita's book. Because if you will try to mix yourself between the two books, you will get confused and it will take a lot of time. So you have to decide, either you go with the Rita's book and with the PMBOK. You have to decide first the one, and once you are done with that book, then you can go to the other book to see which are the parts not covered in that book. because that's the basic thing. If you start doing a PMBOK from the start and then you'll do the retest from the start, you will mix up yourself. Frankly speaking, it's really confusing. It was for me. So you have to first decide either you want to start with a retest book or a PMBOK. So you do that book, you revise it twice, and then you go to the other book and just brief it, see the indices, see the main headlines, and see what are the topics that you haven't covered. So that you don't want to miss that. And if you feel something that was not in Rita's book, I know a few of the chapters initially which are not in the Rita's book in the PMBOK, you can read those, but it will save a lot of time. And the third thing about the question bank, I think one of the most crucial thing. In the Rita's book, at the back, there are like 40 questions at the end of each chapter, and these questions are very lengthy. You must do these questions, but don't get scared because I know you won't able to manage your time. These questions are really lengthy. And in exam, you will not get these lengthy questions. So in my case, I did all these questions to understand the concept because these are very crucial to understand the concept, all the processes. And then you move on to online. And online, it's an ocean of knowledge. So it can be a misinformation. And most of the businesses nowadays, they'll give you like complex questions so that you buy their simulator. So it's a kind of fear. Sometimes you will find lengthy questions and you will see I'm not able to attempt those questions in time, and then I should buy that. Don't do that. I'll share 2 links which helped me in organizing the time, because these were very simple questions which will come into simple in the sense as compared to other simulators which were very difficult, and it was in line with the PMP exam which I did. So these 2 question banks had around 400 questions. You will be able to manage your time. For concepts, you can go through the Rita's book back questions. I know even if you will attempt for the 3rd time, you may not able to get 100% in that. So that's for sure, because these are very difficult questions. And the 3rd thing and the 4th thing I would say, don't jump onto everything online, because it can be sometimes demotivating, because even before the exam day, I did a question bank of 100 questions and I was not able to even attempt 60 questions out of that. And in exam, I got above target in everything. So I will share those few links with you, because that will organize you. That will not let you jump everywhere or anywhere. So these are the things that you need to decide before going to exam. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Shiva. And Kabir, do you have any material you studied that is different from what Marsha and Shiva said?
I think mine is quite different from the approach Marshall and Shiva had. Like I said, I didn't read PMBOK back to back. The reference book for me. Same thing with Rita. They were both reference for me. I didn't read them page 1 to the end. But I used Joseph Philip. Joseph Philip is available online. I bought Joseph Philip. And I went through the whole video. I made notes. I had 2 notebooks. For concept that I'm not clear with, I go into PMBOK or I go into it. I never read PMBOK back to back. I never read Rita back to back. But Joseph Phillips, I had 2 notes from Joseph Phillips. So they became more like it's more easy for me to go to. If I have concept that I don't get, I go back to the video again. So it's more like a decomposed version of PMBOK. So for any concept I don't understand, I go to the videos again. So look for people who have been composing the whole PMBOK. It's not just Joseph Philip. There are other tutors, other mentors also who have decomposed the whole of that PMBOK, and they make it more friendly. PMBOK was very dry for me. I went through it almost the same thing. So the video kind of guide me. Then at the end of each topic, try and take questions. There are questions available if you check to Rita, Taiwo Rita. So once I go to your Joseph Philip video, I go to the questions bank. I went through it. But by the time I finished Joseph Philip, I bought webcast. But you have to be very careful even with simulators. The whole of simulators you have out there are, let me put it, are more difficult than what you have in exam. The questions are lengthy one. They are more complex too. But they make you prepare. They make you go through the rigors. You understand the concept very well. Yeah. What you find in exam, are not as difficult as what you have in simulator. But if you can pass the simulators, what you find in simulator is not what you get in exam. You will not get any of those questions in exam. But the concept you have built around it will guide you in picking the right questions. So you need to understand the concept. You need to understand the project document. You need to understand the whole processes. They are what's they are your legs in the exams. The explanation to the questions you miss, they are guiding for you. So you need to understand, just find a way to understand that process. There is no way you pass that exam without understanding that process. I know for some of us who came from, I had that mindset. I came from an IT background. So, and you know how we do it. We buy simulators. One, not this school. It's not read that. I had that mindset and I failed at first attempt. So I had to look, apart from that, Joseph Philip, I found there are so many materials online. You can go to Ricardo Vargas. Ricardo Vargas explain the whole processes. There's one Akinwale also, I'm not sure of the full name. And I found Gina also explain decomposed version of that PMBOK. They simplify it. It's not what you detail, the tabular forms you have in PMBOK. They decompose it, they explain it better. They make it more friendly for you. I don't have that time to go through the whole PMBOK. So the decomposed version from Joseph Phillips, from Gina, from Ricardo Vargas, all those videos kind of reinforce what I've seen in PMBOK. They built my understanding around it. So at the end of this topic, try and take questions. There are so many questions out there. You don't have to practice 3,000 questions. I practice over 2,000 questions anyway. But any question you practice outside is not what you will get in exam. You won't get it. But they build your concepts. They build your understanding around it. So they help you pass the exam. So your exam is not as difficult as like I said, it's not difficult. Yeah. It's not, but you need confidence. You need to understand it.
Thank you, Cabrillo. So just to clarify, just because we had CBAP and we had PMP. For PMP, the simulators are like harder than the real life exam. For CBAP, Samriti said they're like on the same levels, just so that we don't like get that mixed up. So let's have that at the back of our minds. Yeah.
So it's important to also note the source of the question you're using, because there are some PMP questions out there that make you feel like, oh, I'm set for the exam. So you need to be very careful. That's why I think PM Prepcast is a very good litmus.
I second that.
The moment Marsha said you need to be scoring 80% consistently, I knew she was talking about Prepcast, because that's like the gold standard every time I'm recommending preparation for someone. Then PMI also has created a 200 question sample for you to practice. If you're a PMI member, it's for free. You can get that. You can use that as your final practice before the exam. If you score less than 80 in that exam, please just spend some more time practicing before you go for the exam. And yeah, there was something Marsha also said that should be emphasized, or was it Shiva, that the essence of some of these questions you're taking is to train yourself for the rigor of sitting down for 4 hours at a stretch, answering questions. For some people, the problem is not being able to interpret the question and provide good answers. It is maybe I've been practicing, I only take maybe 100 questions at a stretch or 50 questions at a stretch. Now I have to sit down for 4 hours looking through, one, there's exam tension, there is, you're probably hungry, you probably did not even sleep enough for the anxiety of the exam. And now you have to use your brain consistently for 4 hours. Like if you have not subjected yourself to that in the practice season, you will burn out, and that will affect your judgment towards the end of the exam. So it's not just getting good scores. It's not just understanding what you've read. Also making sure that you it's like you going for a marathon and you just wake up to go run marathon. you're going to be wheeled away in an ambulance, right? So you want to make sure you tone yourself to be able to go the drill of 4 hours, and do that a couple of times before you approach the exam. I usually would tell people that the final 1 week or 2 weeks to your exam, run like 4 or 5 sessions of these practice exams. I've even heard someone said 6 of those, right? If you've taken some questions before, don't count that as a repeat of or a practice exam, because there's a way the brain works that you see a question you've seen before, you're not necessarily using your brain power. So you just skim it and you're out. So when we say 4, 5 exams in your last stretch, make sure these are new exams that you've not had anything to do with before.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Taiwo.
Adetoun.
Okay.
Sorry, Adetoun, I wanted to mention 2 points actually regarding CBAP certification. The first thing, because Kaushik was talking about the questions and the BABOK guide and all of that. So they can also go to IIBA's website, and they have actually a blueprint, IIBA question blueprint of 10 questions, and you can get an idea about the kind of questions you would be expecting in your exam. So you just go through that website and get an idea about the questions. Second thing I would like to mention, just focus more and more on techniques as well. Especially the UML diagrams, the use cases diagrams, all of that. I actually got 3 to 4 questions of use cases diagram. And third thing I want to mention about the BABOK guide, I know it is like a 500-page plus book, but 98% of the exam would be based on the techniques and the knowledge areas. And I didn't get any questions from perspectives, so I just read it only once. And underlying competencies also, you will get only 1% questions out of that. So this is what I wanted to mention. Thank you.
Thank you, Samriti. I'm sure we'll still get more CBAP questions. So I know Pam raised her hand up earlier. Do you still have a question, Pam?
Hi, good evening. I feel like my question has been answered by everybody. I feel like knowledge overload. However, my other question is, I don't know if other people are also working or they are just home preparing for this exam, because I work a full-time job and I'm having to study at the same time. It's dry content. It's also stuff that I have a goal to complete by the end of the year. So I'm just wondering if other people are in that boat, like, and if you have any tips or anything just to share, because I work. So I want to know the most efficient way, the most efficient things, which you've all shared like bits and pieces of. So I just want to know the most efficient way, and if it's very realistic for me to still aim to take that exam this year. So that's all.
Thank you, Pam. Who wants to answer that? I could share a little bit of experience from my personal. When I took my PMP, I was working downtown, and it was not during COVID. So and I wasn't driving, so I would take the train. So I used like the free time on the train to study. I would study on the train. I'd take questions on I had an app on my phone. I could like just do some practice questions. And then when I get back in the evening, I literally would just eat dinner, and I would go study for like 2.5 hours before bedtime, or 3 hours. And I think I did that consistently for like 2 months, and I was able to take the exam. So that worked for me. But I mean, like, I don't have like kids and all of that, so that might have made it easier. And I know somebody else that just had a newborn, and I think she could read at night, so she would like do like 4 or 5 hours in the night, or wake up very early, like maybe 3 a.m. and study till morning, and then no, she was home, so she was able to do that. And then she was able to do write her exam within 6 weeks. So it depends on your study style, but I think it's definitely achievable. You just have to like put your mind to it. It's not easy, by no means. It's not easy. It means like you're not showing up for events and extra activity, but it's something.
Adetoun, did you miss your stop on the train while studying?
I was just about to ask you.
No, I never. Once I got to I think maybe once I missed my train. I missed my stop once, but that was just that once.
Okay.
Any other tips, guys?
Just sorry to cut you. Just to follow up on that, did you use just one like book to study? Like how many things were you studying at the same time given that short period of time?
Okay, so like most of them said, I used, I literally, if anybody saw me on the train, you'd probably see me with a PM book. I read a PM book and I took notes because it's easier for me when I take notes. So I took notes and then I read Rita, and it was easy to like reference some of the things I'd read in the PM book, and I was using my notes. And then I used PM Prepcast. I would like reiterate what Marsha and Taiwo said about PM Prepcast. It's gold, like it literally just prepares you for the exam. It literally prepares you for the exam. So because I still wonder, does that answer your question, Pam?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Ifeoluwa, I took that question because all the three speakers have already spoken about it differently. So Ifeoluwa is raising her hand or his hand.
Yeah, so I'm a guy.
Oh, okay, he's.
Hello, everyone. So what I have to say is more of a comment or an observation, because I know a number of people have spoken over the last 1 hour or so, but I noticed that no one has actually mentioned about or emphasized time management. So I wrote my certification PMP in 2016 back in Lagos, and the biggest challenge that I had was time management. And that was one of the first things, because it was I did my training with Bola at the time. So it was one of the first things that I told him, like, I couldn't finish the exam, right? So for people that are planning to write the exam soon, I'll say be comfortable with skipping questions that you can't find answers to in like 30 seconds. Or if you see a question that has about maybe 6 lines and they're gonna ask you just one question on it, just feel free to skip that one and move to another question that has maybe 3 lines or 4 lines, right? Because one of my biggest challenges was I was struggling with maybe a question that had about 6, 7 lines with just one answer, right? Instead of just moving on to other questions that were easier or simpler, right? And then coming back to those ones that were difficult. So I spent a bunch of time trying to figure out, I didn't want to move forward until I got the answer right. So it was a big issue for me. So when it was about 2 minutes to the end, I had about 8 questions I had not answered, right? So, but, you know, at the end of the day, I passed the exam, right? But I'm just saying, like, things could have gone south, right? Easily, you know, because 8 questions is a lot. So I had to guess my way out through the last 8 questions, you know, just so, because there's no negative marking, right? So, yeah, I just want people to feel comfortable with skipping questions you don't understand or you don't know, or you can't find answers to, like, within 20, 30 seconds, and then come back to them later on.
Thank you very much, Ifeoluwa. That's very, very, very valid point. So before I ask for more questions.
Okay, go ahead. I was just going to say that's a good segue into.
Yes.
So I know someone is calling my name.
Can I just add? Yeah, can I add to what Ifeoluwa just mentioned?
Okay.
Okay, or if you have to skip questions, mark it the one you feel. If you're not so sure, just mark it. Then this is a crude way anyway, but I tried it for a few questions. It worked. If you are confused about questions and you have it's a very quick way. Let me be sincere with you. Choose the question that has the longest sentence. It's a guess. Choose your question. Your answer should be the one that has the longest. It's a very quick way. But don't leave it blank. Don't leave it blank. Choose the one that has the longest sentence and move on. It's a very quick way.
I don't know. I really don't know about that way. I know you can mark your questions and come back to it when you finish. I did that a lot.
If you cannot come back to it,
you've chosen something.
Right, yeah.
I guess
that's longest question, longest answer, longest sentence. If you cannot come back to it.
So let's talk about meets. Let's talk about PMP exam meets. If I had already addressed one, there are no negative marking. So don't be worried that if you chose a wrong response somewhere, it can hurt whatever you've done. So that's a good one. Second one, there are 200 questions. There are 25 questions that are pre-test questions that won't be graded. And so people usually want to like try to guess which of those questions they see would not be graded it's a waste of time. You will not be able to identify them. And you, for all I care, you might even be picking the wrong question as one of those. And so you don't want to hurt yourself by, it's time wasting, and there's no guarantee of adding any value to you. The next one is they say, maybe if I score this percentage, I pass. The PMP exam does not pass you by a particular score. There's no known limit or boundary that says if you exceed 70, you pass. You won't see that. If you see all the people that post their certificate or their transcript at the end of the exam, it's either you're below target, or they changed that. It used to be below proficient, and very proficient, but it's still just a modification of that. So your target is you want to be proficient in all of the domains of knowledge. Those domains are the 5 process groups before now. Did that change recently? Has that changed?
Not yet. I think
okay.
Not yet.
Okay, so it's still the 5 domains of knowledge. Now, about 45% of the questions you're going to answer would come from planning domain alone. And then I think about 25% from execution, about 11% from monitoring and controlling, and then initiating and closing share the rest. So if you're not doing well in planning, in executing, it's going to hurt you badly in the exam. And that's one of the reasons we recommend PM Prepcast, because when you start to prepare with PM Prepcast, it helps you to know which of the domains you're doing well and which of the domains you're not doing well. So if, for instance, you finish a 200 question in PM Prepcast, you can go to check analysis of your result. If you think that if you see that you're not doing well in a particular domain, you can spend more time trying to study in that domain. Bola, I don't know if you remember, but there is one of those textbook that was very popular that the way Rita would walk you through the exam prep knowledge area by knowledge area. This material walks you through the preparation domain by domain. Was it Ed First? I can check, but there is one of those materials there that prepares you for the exam domain by domain as against knowledge area by knowledge area. Marsha, did you come across that?
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, so it's not like it's recommended all the time, but if you see that in your preparation you've done all you can and you keep falling behind in a particular domain, especially planning, executing, or monitoring and controlling, you may want to check that kind of a material to kind of help you dive deeper into that specific domain as against studying all over again. I've seen people who were below proficient in closing, in initiating, and even monitoring and controlling who passed the exam. And I have seen someone only go below proficient in planning alone and fail the exam. You don't want to be below proficient at all, but it's a moderate risk if you're below proficient in closing and initiating because of the weight of those domains. So you want to make sure that, yeah?
Did someone say something? Okay, I think that's just
crashing.
background noise, yeah.
Okay, so so make sure you pay attention to what you're scoring by domain. Prepcast also tells you how you're doing knowledge area by knowledge area. So you want to check vertically, horizontally, and make sure that you're doing fine both ways. So I talked about domain, I talked about no score for as pass mark, and there is also no negative scoring. Any other myths?
Professor Taiwo, you'd know.
No, come on, guys. Like the guys who just took it. If I remember any again, I would chime in. But yeah, just focus on your preparation and don't listen to a lot of essays. There are so many things flying out there that discourages people. I've heard people talk about the sequence of their prep. I read the PMBOK, I skimmed through it. I literally read it in like 12 days. The introduction, the knowledge areas, and then I went to Rita. After Rita, I came back to PMBOK. Then I kind of checked Ed first to be sure that I'm very comfortable. Then I went for the exam. So I heard Marsha say something like that. I think Shiva also said something like that. Yeah, it just helps you by the time you are in one of those expanded prep textbook to be able to focus on what's important, and it helps you to move at a faster pace as well. Don't try to understand everything when you're looking through the PMBOK. Just know that it's the beginning, so you're literally just skimming through, and then when you get to the exam prep text, it becomes more expanded. The second time you come back to the PMBOK, it becomes smoother, it becomes easier to read. Along the line, make sure you're testing yourself to see your level of comfort with the questions. And if you finish any chapter in Rita and you score less than 80%, I would advise that you don't rush to the next one. Like, go back and check why you score so low, because that will probably be the least of the rigor of the test you're going to have to answer on that knowledge area.
Thank you, Taiwo. So I know the CBAP people might be feeling a little bit left out. Thank you very much, Taiwo, for sharing all those, debunking all those myths. Do we have any CBAP question? Taiwo, I see a question in the chat that you would probably have to answer, but it's not necessarily related to exam preparation. It's about recertification. So I'm going to hold off on that a little bit and see if we have any questions from the people that are preparing to take the CBAP. Anyone?
Samriti, Kaushik again here. I know in the financial analysis, there are a lot of formulas and everything. Yes. Do I need like an actual calculator to do those math or something, or is this more application related questions there again? The calculations again.
I think you don't need to have any calculator, because they will provide you one online calculator and you have to use that calculator only. But don't worry, because I know in financial calculation there are calculation based on internal rate of return and net present value, right? You would not be, I think, as per my experience, I would say that you would be getting very simple calculation based questions like gross margin, or maybe return on investment, these kind of questions, or maybe a little bit of estimation related questions. And I used one more thing. I watched a lot of YouTube videos. Maybe I can share the links with you. That person actually has explained each and every calculation very well. So you might go through those techniques and it might help you out. But you won't be using any other calculator apart from that they would be providing. Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Samriti. It looks like it's only Kaushik that has been asking CBAP questions. Any other one? I see Pam is raising up her hand, but I think that's PMP as well. Any other CBAP?
One more.
Oh, go for it, Kaushik.
Okay. Did you take the exam online during COVID-19, or did you actually have to go into an actual test center? And does that make a difference in your experience?
You can actually give exam online from home as well, but I actually went to the center and I took my exam there, because I thought that I would be more comfortable in that kind of environment. I wanted to take the real feel of the exam, so that's why I went to the center, but I didn't give it from home. But you can give it from home online as well. I think for that, the criteria I think would be you need to have a desktop or laptop, like fast internet connection, and then you would be requiring to have a webcam. I think these would be the requirements for that.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you, Samriti. But Samriti took it during COVID. She only just went to the test center. Pam was going to ask about the virtual experience for PMP. Shiva, did you take yours virtually?
Yeah, mine was virtually during the pandemic, and I would say the experience was good. The only thing, you have to test your system before the exam, so you can do it like 2 days before the exam, 1 day before the exam. So if you can check that, I think there is nothing else. And especially, I don't know about this center environment. Obviously, when there are like a lot of people writing exam around you, you have a lot of pressure. But in the home environment, obviously it's more comfortable, and then you will get a break in between. And I would say do take that break of like 10 minutes. It will be a break, and then you can relax. So I think home virtual, it was very good experience. Only thing you need to test is just check your system beforehand, like day or 2 days before your exam. It's a free link there, you can test it, and everything. I think there should not be any other problem. It's more comfortable, I feel so.
Thank you, Shiva. So I see Ifeoluwa raising his hand. Do you still have a question, Ife?
Yeah, I do actually.
Okay.
Thank you.
Go for it.
So this is CBAP related. So my question is, in terms of like the exam itself, how many questions would you say are related directly to kind of like the techniques themselves? Right. I know that quite a bit of the questions will be, or majority will be based on application, right? But in terms of like the techniques, because there are quite a number of techniques in BABOK as well. So, and many of them, depending on your area of business analysis experience, you might not be exposed to quite a number of those techniques in BABOK, right? So from that perspective, what's the percentage of the kind of questions that you got on techniques?
Well, I really can't talk about the percentage, but I would say the majority of the questions would be based on techniques. Mostly questions you will get from UML diagrams, process flow charts related diagrams, or like it will be a mix of questions like knowledge areas and techniques. There would be questions asked from the knowledge area, and they would ask you in specific task which technique would you choose. So percentage wise, I cannot say, like I cannot quantify it, but I would say that techniques are very, very important, and you will get all the questions which would be interrelated, like between techniques and knowledge areas. Yeah.
Thank you, Samriti.
No problem.
So I think Samson is raising up his hand. That would probably be our last question, because I want us to like keep to time. Samson.
All right. Thank you all for this wonderful session. I'm actually doing this thing for CBAP, and of course, I'm making career switch. So for Samriti, I need to find out for someone who does not have a prior knowledge of business analysis, can I put in for the exam right now? Do you think it's going to be a wise decision for me to take at this point?
Well, if you do not have any business analysis experience, I would say you should plan wisely, and you first take knowledge about business analysis word, like try to go through the book BABOK and try to understand what business analysis is all about, what are the terminologies that they use. There are key concepts that are written in the BABOK. Just try to go through them, and just get yourself familiar with the BABOK guide. And I think like you can take some time, you can practice questions, and eventually then you can go and take your exam. But it doesn't matter if you don't have any experience. I think just go through the book and try to understand the concept, try to join some study group, talk to people who are among the same community, so you would have a better idea about the business analysis or CBAP certification exam.
So I know Adetoun will start drawing the curtain right after now. If the panelists would like post their LinkedIn profile, if you don't mind, that can help anyone who still has a question to like reach out to you one-on-one, and maybe not today, maybe down the line someone has a question.
Sure. They
can always just get that.
Yeah, just one thing I am like kind of surprised nobody asked about that is nowadays, if you see with PMBOK, you will get a like 200-page agile guide also, and you will have questions in the exam. So nowadays I'm facing questions from many people. How many questions do you get related to agile in the exam? So I just want to give a brief idea about that, because the guide is around 200 pages, and and your questions out of 200, you may get only 10 to 12 questions. So what I did in my case, it worked. I did one of the training for Scrum Master, and I was able to answer like 5 to 6 questions out of those 12. So I didn't read that agile guide. So I would suggest like people to strike a balance. If they don't want to read full agile guide, they can do any training on the Scrum. Then that training will help them in getting the PSM certification also, and they'll also able to answer 5 to 6 questions in the exam out of 12. And yes, if you want to do all the 12 questions correct, then it's up to you if you want to read 200 pages agile guide. I don't know about other panelists, they can also share their experience, but I got only 10 to 12 questions out of 200.
I was also going to add that there's a lot of misinformation around calculations in the exam. From my experience, I don't know if it's still valid. The calculation question are actually your easiest if you understand the concept. There are no ambiguities to them. If your mind thinks, okay, this is, if you think of 2 options and you think one is complicated, one is simple, it's usually the simple version of your interpretation. If you understand the calculations very well, it actually helps you to, it bumps you well in the exam because you won't waste too much time thinking, am I right? Is there any blind spot I'm not interpreting correctly? Also, when you're looking at the options in the exam, I found it back then that usually you're able to knock off like 1 or 2 options easily. Then it's always like 2 options that you have to struggle between.
Right.
I don't know what the recent exam takers will say about that.
I think it's still the same.
It's same, yeah.
Same.
The only 2 options will always have confusion, and as Kabir said, you can either go with the longest answer or based on your best judgment. You can, at least you should tick before going. I would say that, because if you don't have time to review, at least you are not leaving anything like without any answering. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. It's been fun hanging out. I know if we left everyone, we would probably still like want to ask more questions, but we can connect on LinkedIn. I think I put everyone's LinkedIn link there, and you can follow H.O.P.S on LinkedIn. And we also have a group, a LinkedIn group that is for helping other people succeed as well, where you can network with other professionals like yourself, and you can also ask some of these questions. And we usually like put all the other initiatives that helping other people succeed embarks on over there. So before we go, we wanted to like thank you, every one of you, for joining. Yinka, you have a question. I would have Taiwo stay back to answer that question, if you don't mind, Yinka. And I'd like to see if Bola has any comments. Bola just came back from a long trip, and I don't even know if he's actually with us or not with us. Bola, are you there?
Tired.
Bola, are you alive?
Are you alive? Are you back to Earth, or you're still in Mars?
Yes, I'm alive.
Oh, okay. Do you have any comments? Final comments? Okay, Bola is operating from space for now, so we would forgive him, and would like to thank everyone. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you, Marsha, Shiva, Samriti, and Cabrillo. You like brought different perspectives, which I believe was beneficial to everyone in attendance. Thank you, Professor Taiwo, for also bringing your perspective, especially as a pro PMBOK. I'm just kidding, but thank you very much. Taiwo, do you have any final comments?
No. Good luck in your exams.
Okay, we wish everyone the very best in their examination. You can connect with Marsha, Shiva, Samriti, and Cabrillo, and we can like keep asking those questions.
Yes, disturb them very well, like the same way Cabrillo would disturb anybody.
disturb his 10 mentors.
Yeah.
So thank you very, very much again. Wishing you, for those of you in Canada, wishing you a very happy long weekend. Thank you, Marsha. Thank you, Shiva. Thank you, Samriti, the one woman CBAP army.
Yeah, thank
you, Ifeoluwa, for adding to the CBAP perspective as well. Thank you, Cabrillo.
Can you stop recording?
Yes, I'm still recording, but I'm going to stop that now. Taiwo, do you want to say something funny?
Just stop recording first.